Hid for a few weeks before it came to me. I had to choose my heart, heal and get free. She said life's easy, pain comes with living. Surround myself with everything God's given. It's time to change my routine, create a new scene that feels like an unreachable dream.
Happy October, everyone, and good morning. You are, of course, tuning into Mentally How Are You? I am your host, Neena Lock, here to discuss all things mental healing. And today I do not sit alone. I am sitting with what is probably one of the most important guests that we could have on this show, and that is the director of Aurora's Crisis Care Services with AID-Alyssa Marrero. Alyssa, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, of course. And thank you for showing me your offices and just sharing with me all the details of what we will review today. I'm excited for everyone to see, hear, know, and learn.
Absolutely. I'm glad to be here.
So again, this is Alyssa, everyone. Alyssa, I'd like for you to start off by explaining to everyone just what AID is, who they are, what they do, and what they provide to the community.
Yeah, so AID, Association for Individual Development, has been around for over 60 years, and we provide services to people across a range of needs. So we focus on folks who have behavioral health needs, and we provide behavioral health outpatient services, so like therapy and case management. We also provide services for people who have developmental disabilities, and then we serve people who are in a mental health crisis with various services.
Okay, and one of those services is with the Crisis Care Services, correct?
Yeah, so I am over the mobile crisis response team and 24-hour crisis line, and so that's kind of a whole crisis care program system like you mentioned.
Okay, tell us how that works and how you all serve the community of Aurora and surrounding areas as well, right?
So the 24-hour mobile crisis team, we provide mobile mental health crisis services to Aurora and then Kendall County, and then we serve as backup for the rest of Kane County for some other agencies, where we will do in-person mobile crisis response to anybody, regardless of your age, your health insurance, or your income. We will come to your home and see how we can support you.
Awesome. And you come to the home so someone can call and you come out?
Yes, absolutely. So we come to the people. So our model is that we're going to meet you where you're at, regardless of if you're in your home, if you're at a park at 2 a.m. We will go wherever you are in our service area.
That's amazing. And tell us how and when did this program begin? What prompted the need for it?
So our program started back in 2021 when the new 988 Lifeline went live nationally. So Illinois saw a need for mental health crisis to be served by mental health professionals rather than it being directed through the 911 system. So they took the opportunity to utilize 988 as a access point to then be able to dispatch these mobile crisis teams. So that's where AID went ahead and saw the opportunity, saw the need in the community, and we have a grant where we've been able over the last 4 years now to get this program up and running and start taking calls and being accessible to the community.
That is amazing. I know that it was a big deal for Illinois to finally say, like, let's let our mental health professionals take care of this area, right? And I know it's a big concern just within communities across the nation that someone who is in the field is helping them rather than just a police officer. Not that a police officer is bad, it's just that, you know, it makes sense for them to respond to a crime and a mental health professional to respond to a mental health crisis.
Correct. Yes, it's very different, right? So our mobile crisis team is staffed with 2 people. One is a person who has lived experience, who is in recovery from a mental health diagnosis or co-occurring substance use disorder. And then the other responder is a trained professional who has a degree in a human service field like social work or psychology. They tag team and we go and assess, and it's different than police going and doing that crisis intervention, because we have training to de-escalate in the moment and get people connected with resources.
Yes.
Our goal is to really eliminate the need for law enforcement to be involved or for us to need to go to the emergency room.
Oh, and I like that. So you kind of just explained the difference between a therapist, like going to seeing a therapist, and then or a police officer responding to someone. Is that you provide those resources that maybe they don't have. In fact, I think police officers will come to you sometimes and ask for resources, right?
Yeah, so we do work pretty closely with law enforcement. We'll work with hospitals and schools as well. But law enforcement doesn't necessarily they don't want to be the main people involved in these mental health crises. So they will utilize programs like ours to deflect or redirect a mental health crisis from the emergency system. Okay. And then, like you mentioned, we are different than therapists too, because we're not doing that long-term treatment planning support. We're crisis in the moment. Like think about it like first responders for mental health. We're going and getting them connected to immediate resources who will then see them through that long-term care. So we're kind of in your face for a little bit, and then we want to hand you off and get you to a longer-term support.
Right. So in the moment. And I think that's important for everybody to understand with Alyssa being here. When you use this resource, that's what's happening. You'll call them and see them. You'll call and say what your crisis is. You'll see them for that moment, and then they will help you transfer to where your services that you actually need beyond just the moment. Yep. So this is for a crisis. That's why we keep using the term crisis. It's for a crisis. Walk us through, what, let's say someone calling in would go through, like walk us through how it would go from the moment of the call all the way to the assessment. Yeah,
so there's a couple ways people can get access to us. If you call our line directly, that's 630-966-4357. You will be met with a crisis counselor or recovery support specialist who's going to do some active listening, get an understanding of what's going on, and see how we can support you. Sometimes you just need to talk to someone over the phone, and we'll give you that support over the phone, but other times an in-person response would be appropriate, or the person is asking for us to come out directly. So then we're going to ask some safety questions and assess for some risk, right? And make sure that person's not danger to themselves or others. Once all that information's been gathered, we come to your home, and we kind of work with you to see what you need and meet you where you're at.
Okay. Yeah. And I know we keep pointing out that we come to your home, and that's great for us as mental health providers, but others may be nervous to hear that, right? So if somebody called in and said, can you meet me somewhere else, are you guys willing to do that?
Yes, absolutely. We've met people at a McDonald's. People can come to us. We will meet with you if you walk in as well. AID has a living room, which is a similar concept, but that's a place for people to come to when they're in crisis, rather than a place where we would go meet them. So in the event that we're not able to say, hey, come to our office and meet us, we might redirect them to the living room if they're looking to go somewhere on their own and they're not comfortable with us coming to their home. But there's other ways around it, right? We are happy to meet at Starbucks. We will do whatever that person feels the most comfortable with.
Nice. Okay. And we've actually had the living room here on the show, so I'm sure all viewers know about the living room. But with you saying that, it just prompted me to think, if someone does show up to the living room and they're in a mental health crisis, will the living room then call you guys over? Yeah,
we lean on each other all the time. We use each other as a resource. It's really awesome to have that program internally, because when we want to get someone to somewhere maybe where they can have a little bit more stabilization, we can take them there. And then if someone is at the living room that might need a little bit more additional support, we can come over and help them as well.
Good. Okay. Yeah. See, so we're all working together and making sure that everybody is okay. I love this. Talk to us about, what does a mental health crisis really look like? Maybe someone's listening and they may be thinking, well, I wouldn't need this service because I don't have a mental health crisis. I've never experienced that. What does it look like?
So mental health crisis is not black and white. It can look like a range of things. And the main thing I like to hit on when we talk about a mental health crisis is that you are seeing someone behave differently than they typically do, or you're feeling differently than you typically do, and that behavior or that feeling is impacting your ability to function regularly. That can look like not wanting to get out of bed. That can look like having thoughts of suicide or wanting to end your life. It can also look like anxiety. Maybe people are no longer making rational decisions. They're doing things that are a little more dangerous, or they believe that someone's going to bring them harm, and it's maybe a little more paranoid, right? Those instances is where you can start kind of looking at it and saying, okay, this is now escalated. this person is no longer behaving in their normal setting in an environment, something's wrong. It can be, you've lost your job and you don't feel like you have a will to live anymore. It's a bad breakup, right? There's so many different varieties of a crisis or a situation that can lead to a mental health crisis. But ultimately remembering that it's impacting your ability to function in everyday life.
Yeah. And what I'm hearing too is that you don't have to be a direct threat to yourself or others. It doesn't have to be that extreme. I know sometimes we think like someone has to be saying that they want to hurt themselves or they want to hurt somebody else, but it could be just a normal, like you said, I can't get out of bed and maybe I haven't been able to get out of bed for the past 2 days and I just don't feel like even trying. So for someone who is you're either in their care or, they're a loved one that's supporting you, they would know then like that's a sign that maybe I should call a crisis line, correct?
Yes. In fact, I think when people, like you said, they hear crisis and they think they have to wait until it gets to a point where someone wants to hurt themselves or someone else, that's a really far extreme that sometimes more often than not requires more emergency services to get involved, where if we can get involved before it gets to that point, it's even better because we don't want to get to that level of crisis. I like to think of crisis as a spectrum in some ways, and sometimes if you can get in there early, it prevents it from getting to that point, right? And that's the ideal situation. That's where diversion comes in because we're preventing people from getting involved into this criminal justice system because when they get to a point where they might want to hurt someone else because they have lost control of their decision making and their functioning, that increases the risk of them getting involved with law enforcement, and that's what we don't want. We want to get involved before it gets to that point. Right.
Early action is what it is. Like that's the point of this service, so that you can be connected to maybe resources that you don't know about. Let's say somebody doesn't watch a show like this, or you just don't know, like you would be able to call this line before it went to a certain height and be able to get early access and interventions for yourself. So that's what's so amazing about it. I know I'm always geeked when I have guests on and you guys are probably like, but what's the reason? But it's because of that, so that we can have early action, early intervention, and then you're able to move forward. Okay. Share with us some warning signs that people should look out for when they're reaching a breaking point, or let's say, like I said, a loved one is supporting and they're paying attention, but maybe not realizing. What's some signs?
So if you notice, this can be adults or kids, right? They're more isolated. They're wanting to stay to themselves. Things that are normal hobbies that they might engage in or things that they enjoy, they're no longer participating in. You might notice folks talking about things that don't make a lot of sense, and you're struggling with following, the conversation. Maybe anger outbursts that are unusual and just not typical of that person. They're not getting physically aggressive; they're just getting mad easily. That's a really big indicator someone's having a hard time. Lack of sleeping. People who are when they start struggling with sleeping, people who have underlying mental health conditions, sleep is essential to keep them well. And when they stop sleeping, the chances of a crisis occurring it increases significantly.
Got it. Okay. So those are some things. Those are some warning signs. And let's say I'm a loved one who called, right? So I called the crisis care services line. And I know responding in the moment can be very beneficial for your mental health, but someone is able to refuse services. So how do you all handle it if I've made the call, but my loved one doesn't want the help?
So we get this a lot, actually. Family members are always very concerned about their loved ones and want, the best for them. So they will reach out. And we are always very clear with them that, especially if it's an adult or a kid that's over 12 years old, like they can refuse to talk to us. They can tell us we want nothing to do with you, and we're going to respect that and honor that. We do not force you to engage with us, but we are firm believers that we're still going to go give you our folder, right? We're still going to give you our resources because it could be that one time of just showing up that helps someone say, hey, these people want to help me. Or them having that information if they maybe start to decline further and they have it accessible, maybe they're more willing to engage. And then the other part is building rapport. So chances are in these situations, we're going to get called again. And so we go, we see them face to face, they tell us to go away, we'll go away, and then we come back and they're like, oh, they're back. Yeah, we're here.
Yep,
and then it's like,
again.
okay, I'll talk to you, fine. But we're never going to force someone. Now, if they are presenting as a danger to themselves or someone else, or if their mental health status is a concern at the level where we can see they're not able to make decisions for themselves, and they can't necessarily in good faith say, no, I don't want you to talk to me, because they don't really understand what's even going on.
Yeah.
That gets a little different. That's when we're going to intervene in a different way, to see if we need to look at maybe this person being hospitalized, and that's when we're getting information from the environment. We're asking very direct questions about suicide, whether or not they're wanting to hurt anybody else, and then we're determining if we need to look at having someone get assessed at a hospital.
Got it. Okay. So, and those assessments are sometimes important and very necessary. So that's still a good reason for a loved one or a bystander to call, because you wouldn't be able to determine that yourself always. Share with us some do's and don'ts for bystanders or supporters. Like, what should you do? What should you not do?
So when you come across, or if you ever come across someone who may be experiencing a crisis, the first thing you want to determine is the situation safe? Is the environment safe? Is it safe for me to engage this individual? Do I feel safe, right? So like if we're just a bystander and we're encountering someone as a stranger and we have no context and we're not comfortable, they're going to know that, and that can cause issues, right? So if you don't feel comfortable engaging that individual, do not. But you obviously want to look around. Is everything good? Are we safe? Is this person walking in the middle of the traffic, or are they just sitting on a park bench and they just look like they need to talk? The other thing that you would want to do is listen, validate, make that person feel heard. Don't make them feel dismissed, and ask what they want. That's the other part. Sometimes as bystanders, we come across a situation where we think something's wrong, but that person's living their best life, and this is how they live every day, and it is what it is to them, and they don't want to be bothered. So making sure that they actually want or are looking for help, and then if they are, helping them find that assistance. Really great resources. So 988 is a really easy number to remember. Anybody can call it nationally, and you just dial it and say, hey, like I'm with this person, I need some help, who can you direct me to? 988's trained to support you and then get you access to the resources in your area. 211 for our area is also accessible, so that's like, hey, I need information on a food pantry. And then there's our crisis line, like I mentioned earlier, where you can call us directly, especially being in Aurora. We will come respond. So that's 630-966-4357. Okay. Don't yell. Don't insert yourself into something that person doesn't want to be involved in.
Of course.
If they seem like they are agitated or any safety concern or risk occurring around them, that's when you disengage. You can call a team like ours. If there's an immediate safety concern that's obvious, like a weapon or something, that does need to be 911. I would say also don't give people ultimatums. Nobody wants to be forced to do something they don't want to do. So ultimatums are never good.
Yeah, okay. I like those. I agree with those do's and do nots. One thing that you mentioned, though, that has nothing to do with the do's and do nots that I want to go to is the 211 number that's here. And you mentioned, like, if you needed a food pantry, you could go there. I teach highly that our mental health encompasses everything, right? Like it's all things. And sometimes we have a mental health crisis because of a matter like that, right? So when you guys go out, you assess and you see what's happening, what's going on. If there is a need like that needs to be met, but they just don't know how to get it, do you also give those resources as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
We all the time come across, folks who are, the suicide is common, where it's I want to end my life because I can't afford groceries, right? Or I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills tomorrow.
Right.
And so to your point, like I said earlier, in my opinion, it tends to be on a spectrum, and there's two types. There's that situational, and then there's that mental health or that well-being type of crisis. But situational crises can create or exacerbate a mental health crisis,
Yes.
right? So they do go hand in hand. And so a big part of our role in that moment is getting them connected to resources that are going to help prevent the need for, or prevent that crisis from occurring again, and help them realize, like, we're going to get through this. It's going to be okay. We can get through the next day, because there are agencies like ours and resources that exist to help you when times get hard.
That is perfect and amazing for me to hear, because I've seen so many people where, you know, you're a supporter or a bystander, and the person may say something like, yes, I don't want to be here anymore because I can't afford this. And a bystander or supporter or loved one will say, oh, well, that's not a big deal. Why are you getting upset about that? And it's like, no, well, let's still call, because these people can also help connect you with these resources. So I want everyone to see the importance of that no matter how it looks or what it is, still call the line, because you just don't, that's the point of it, to get connected to more resources to help with whatever the root cause of the mental health crisis may be.
Absolutely. Yep.
Can you share with us, let's say, a healing story or a success story of how the line worked that has stuck with you and that you remember well?
I have a lot. In general, I'll just speak broadly. Some of my favorites are when the family members reach out and they say, you know, we're at our wits' end. We've tried everything, nothing's working. We can see our loved one really, really needs help. And we come and we work with the family and that individual in crisis, and we get them connected to resources. And then we hear after, you saved our son, right? You know, the other like scenarios that I really warm my heart are when we encounter people who are going through substance use crisis. We do help folks when they're going through some kind of substance use crisis, and when they go to treatment, when my team's able to help facilitate that and actually see it through, it's always such a big win. And with having recovery support specialists on the team, I see the benefit to that, because, you know, having someone with lived experience who's went through what you're going through right now look at you and say, hey, I've been there. We're going to go together right now. We're going to get you in through intake, and I'm going to tell you exactly what that process is like. You see the guards just drop, right? And it's always so inspiring. We have a family whose loved one was navigating substance use crisis, and both the parents were also experiencing mental health crisis because of what was going on, and just how challenging it had been. We were able to support that individual to get into treatment, and the parents. And one of the statements that was made when they called and followed up with us was, we've never been to therapy a day in our life. We never thought we would go, but because your team came and showed us the value and benefit to just talking to someone, now I'm getting treatment for my PTSD. Now I'm getting treatment for my substance use. And it was just, it still gives me chills, because it's just like, yes, this is why we do this
whole
work.
Family,
the whole family.
Yeah, that's good. So, and that's definitely a success story. So I wanted you to point that out, just so people can see, like, this does work, you know, like, even if you're nervous, even if you're anxious or scared about it, it does work. And even look at the last story, your entire family could receive help and support. I do like that. I would like to know, because just with the crisis interviews we've had on the show, I've had some feedback from some viewers that feel like, you know what, that is for a specific culture. I don't think that they would be able to help me. So how do race and culture affect how people respond and even experience a crisis?
So it is a huge factor. And if you're not aware of it when you are providing those services, you're going to get caught up and not be able to provide good services. Things that we come across a lot of times, people of color are reluctant to engage us because they know that we may call the police, right? I'm not even going to pretend like that's not a possibility, because it is. And that's always a concern, because oftentimes when police get involved and there's a mental health crisis, it can increase the chances of someone being harmed, right? And as we all know, that disproportionately impacts communities of color. So that's one thing. The other thing is, people think we're the government sometimes. So they're like, nope, we're not talking. And then when you get into different cultures where, like, maybe we're seeing kiddos, right? I think about the kiddos a lot, the teenagers who their parents maybe weren't from America, right? So they're from a different country, and mental health isn't talked about. It's not a concept for them.
Right.
Where now these kiddos are being raised, in TikTok age, where everybody's talking about mental health, and they have the words for it. They're able to talk about what they want, but the parents are not able to align with that, or they don't see that in the same way, and there's a lot of conflict there. And so we have to be really conscious of that and meet these communities where they're at, right? Because the reality is, if I'm a white female walking up into this situation, I don't know what their experience is like.
Right.
I have to be understanding that they might be extremely reluctant to engage with me because they think I'm the government. They think I'm a cop, right?
Yeah.
And so those do play a role in how we respond. One thing AID does, and I really appreciate my hiring group and my managers who have been a part of the hiring as well, for our team, we really try to hire community members. Like the people who work on the team, almost all of them are from this area, right? Like, I gotta hire people, so I can't only say they're from Aurora. But most of the people that are on my team are from this area. They we have a bilingual staff on every shift.
Nice.
So we're really proud of that. And we have people that really know the community. They know what the needs are. Again, I go back to my recovery support specialist. Some of my RSSs have lived in this area their entire life. They know, the AA meetings. They know the community organizations. And that's helped. I think the other part is when I'm able to send these people who are able to say, hey, I've been at Hesed House before. I stayed there before. I know what it's like. It breaks these barriers down on that cultural side of it, because if that person looks like them or has had the same experiences as them, they're more willing to say, okay, I trust you.
Yes.
I see you and I trust you. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just glad you broke that down. That's very important for people to know. This is a service for everyone, like, right? We want all of you to be able to call in, but to have that information hopefully breaks down some of the fear or the anxiety with everything. So I'm glad to hear that. What is something that you want every viewer to understand or know about crisis intervention?
It is evolving, and it's very important. I think as a state, I'll speak specifically for Illinois, we recognize that crisis care and mental health crisis care should be as accessible as emergency response.
Yes.
If you're having a heart attack, EMS comes, right?
Yeah.
So if you're having a mental health crisis, teams like mine will come. And that's really what Illinois is moving towards. It's really awesome to see. It is taking some time, but we're getting there, and there's been some successes, and I'm excited to see how it continues to grow. Crisis is available. Our crisis team is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Nice.
Someone is always there, and we really care about what we do, and we want to make sure that people get the support they need.
Yeah, okay, that's good. And I'm glad you pointed out that it's 24 hours, just so everybody knows, so you can call in whenever, whatever time, it doesn't matter. There was something that you said that made me trigger back to how we wrap it all up, right? So once somebody is stabilized, like, how does that look?
Yeah.
What do you leave with them?
That's really
You know what I
important.
mean?
So, like I mentioned earlier, we're temporary. But we do provide follow-up, because good crisis care is going to have some follow-up involved. The crisis doesn't stop when people are calm. There's still background things that are happening, and they might need additional support to make sure that they've gotten access to the resources we've provided and seen through that stabilization process. So we will follow up for up to 30 days, but it is also kind of dependent on the need of that person. We will do phone calls or in-person follow-up, and we try to schedule it. Our first follow-up tends to be between 24 to 48 hours, again, depending on the need of that individual. But we really try to make it not where we're just calling saying like, hey, how's it going? Like,
Right.
we were like, hey, did you call that therapist that we gave you? And
Yeah.
no, they didn't. Let's call together, right? Or, oh, you're at work right now. When are you available so we can call together? And coordinate with that individual, because again, sometimes when like the immediate situation is handled, if there's not follow-up, people are like, okay, it's handled, but they don't work through the background stuff.
Right.
So then the background stuff comes back up.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I'm in crisis again.
Right.
Versus us supporting them and walking with them to see that through and say, like, let's get you into behavioral health outpatient, right? Let's get you a case
Right.
manager.
Yes.
Let's go see if we can get you into an inpatient, not involuntarily, but because you want it, right?
Yeah.
We've come across people with specific diagnoses like OCD or eating disorders, and we've spent the time working with them finding actual programs that are specific to that. That also reminds me, I always like to highlight, typically services like this are Medicaid or uninsured only.
Yes.
This program is available to anybody, private insured, uninsured, Medicaid, which is unique because, again, a lot of times privately insured folks haven't had access to something like this.
Yes.
And so now they do, and while we have great ins with our community resources, we will support you in getting to like a private behavioral health facility if your health insurance supports that. Like, we'll help work with that as well.
Yeah, and I love that you point that out, because just because you may have private insurance or Medicaid or whatever it may be, you still don't know about the resources that are available to you, right? Like, we still have to get on the phone and call insurance companies and things like that. So that is amazing to know that at the end of this, it's not just you don't arrive, right? Like, this is still an ongoing process, and there's work to do behind it. So this is for a crisis when you call this center, but they're going to make sure that you follow through to do the rest of the work that's needed, so you don't have to have another crisis again.
Yep.
Right. I like that. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else that you want, just the public to know, understand about what you provide, the services, anything like that?
So AID has expanded our crisis services since mobile crisis started. Like we talked about with Living Room, that's recently been out in the last 2 years, and we've seen a lot of success with that. We also have street outreach in our victim services program, but our crisis line is always ready for your calls, and even if you're not in the area, we will support you in getting you connected with the right resources. So yeah. That's us.
Good. And can you give that number to everyone one more time?
Oh, yes, I can. It is 630-966-4357.
Perfect. Everything will be attached to this episode per usual, right? I'll make sure that you guys have access to everything that Alyssa and her team provides, and I just want everyone to take advantage of what they are providing, because it's very important. This is all the access that we have around us, so let's be sure to use it and not just let it lie around, all right? Alyssa, I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming in and being willing to share and give us all this insight.
I enjoyed it so much. Thank you so much.
Yes, of course. And I want to thank you all for sitting with me on this episode of Mentally How Are You? It is my hope that you are leaving more stable than when you came in. I'll see you guys next Friday.
No judgment, just love, so I can be me. I'm tired of hearing it's okay not to be okay. Just want the dark days to go away. Mentally, how are you? How are you? Yeah, I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want to. Mentally, how are you? Yeah, I know it's hard, but you can get well if you want